Hey guys, welcome back to the Struggleville YouTube channel. I want to make an eBay video today because eBay recently made some changes to the top rated seller program. And the changes were in the defect rate and how they determine if a shipment was late. And it's actually, on the surface anyways, and hopefully they implement it the way they say they will, is a good change for sellers. About a year ago, it may have been more, actually, I lose track of time sometimes, but they introduced the defect rate, and the defect rate was one of the main things to determine whether you would be a top-rated seller or not. And the original defect rate took in several factors into account. They were neutral or negative feedback left from buyers, low detailed seller ratings, return requests for either items not as described or items not received, cases closed without seller resolution, or seller canceled transactions. So you had 6 different factors that went into the defect rate. And within a transaction, if any one of those appeared, if anything happened, you would get a ding on your account. It would count as a defect for that transaction. And of course, it caused a lot of people to lose top-rated seller status, which, maybe you think that's a good thing because it makes it a little bit more exclusive, or maybe it was a bad thing because you lost your 20% discount. It's going to be different for everybody. But they've simplified it drastically and made it much, much easier to not have the defect rate be a detriment to your selling account. There should be a lot more top-rated sellers after this change. So what they did with the defect rate is it now only considers 2 factors. And the first one is cases closed without seller resolution. So there's 2 types of cases, not as received or not as described, and that's what buyers can open up against you. Items not received are really easy for eBay. It's easier than what Amazon requires for their system, and you just need a tracking number that shows the item was delivered. That's all you need. If you can provide that and you ship the item to the address on file, then you win that case. The other case they can open up against you is an item not as described. And eBay isn't even going to blame you if it's your fault with this new defect rate. You could have shipped the item and it broke. It could be the wrong item. It could not be as described. Maybe there's a stain on it. eBay doesn't even care if it's your fault, okay? All you have to do is respond and take care of the situation, basically. You can offer a refund when the buyer returns the item. You can offer a partial refund. You can refund without them returning the item if that's how you want to go about it with your returns. But all you have to do is respond and finish the transaction. So it makes it really easy. This is something where you should almost never have a problem with. The only other part to the defect rate is seller canceled transactions. And typically the only reason a seller would cancel a transaction is if maybe their inventory was off and they don't actually have stock, or maybe after the fact, after the sale, they realize something was wrong with the item. What is not supposed to count against you is if the buyer asks you to cancel a transaction. Maybe they don't actually want the item, or they don't have the money, or wherever the case may be. When you go to cancel an item, there is a drop down that asks you questions of why you're canceling. And one of them will be because the buyer asked you to, the buyer requested, or whatever it says about the buyer. So those are your only 2 things that the defect rate takes into account now. The other change is how they determine if an item was delivered late. And they are being really generous with this also. Really surprising. eBay almost never makes a change that is positive for sellers. The changes are really always geared towards improving the buyer experience because buyers are more coveted than sellers, generally speaking. But this is something that helps sellers. So in the old system, it was by low DSR ratings for shipping time. So the buyer could determine if they thought you shipped the item slow, regardless of how fast it got to them. They may have paid for parcel select shipping, which would take, let's say, 4 or 5 days. And even if they got the item the next day, if they just wanted to be a jerk, or even if they just clicked the wrong button, you could get a low DSR rating for shipping time. So the new system actually goes by the delivery of the item. And you've been seeing this whole time I've had the video up. My website, struggleville.net, where I wrote a post on this, and towards the bottom of the post, I do have a little chart or table that you can reference anytime that shows the different ways in which you would meet this standard for getting an item delivered on time. And basically what you're looking at is the acceptance scan is in the first column. And it's really important that when you take your item to the post office or when you have an item picked up from your house, to make sure whatever post office worker grabs your item, that they give you they acceptance scan the item. They don't give it to you. You see them scan the barcode on the package. Because they are acknowledging that it is now in their hands. And if you get that scan and it is within your stated shipping or handling time, then you automatically pass this metric. Now, if you don't get that scan in that time, it is still possible for you to pass this metric. Because if the acceptance scan is late, but there's a delivery scan, a delivery confirmation, which is on time, then you still automatically pass this metric. You cannot get a defect for that. If the acceptance scan is late, the delivery is late, but the buyer either does not respond when asked about it, and I don't know if they're sending emails or what the deal is with buyer question. I don't know if they if it's going to be part of the feedback or if it is an emailed question where they can ask if the item was delivered on time or not. Honestly, I haven't bought anything on eBay in like 2 years, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, but they're going to ask the buyer in some format, some way, and if they say that the item was on time, you're good to go. You still pass. If no tracking is available, but you get the delivery confirmation on time, or the buyer says it was on time, you still win. The only way that you are going to get your account dinged for late delivery is if the acceptance scan is late or not available, the delivery is late or not available, and the buyer either does not respond or says that it was late. That's a lot of things that have to go against you in order for this to appear on your account. So eBay has made this portion much easier. Now there's still standards on how many sales you have to have and how the dollar amount of sales you have to have and different things like that. By the way, the return policy is going to go to 30 days. It is currently a 14-day return policy you have to offer, starting in about a month, 3 weeks, in the middle of March. Starting in the middle of March, you're going to have a 30-day return policy. So at the bottom of this page on my website, there is a link right here that has the full list of requirements for top-rated seller. But these are the two things that changed. Make sure I'll put a link in the description below or on this video to this page on my website, so you can pull up and you can reference this table anytime you'd like. Hopefully it'll help you out with this new standard. I think it's a good thing for sellers. I'm happy to see it. The old top-rated seller, the old defect rate, was a little cumbersome. It put a lot in the hands of buyers, and as any seasoned seller knows, buyers do not read descriptions or titles or look at pictures, and a lot of times it's an impulse buy, and it's not necessarily the seller's fault. A real quick thing just on that topic, I posted a couple pictures on my Twitter account yesterday or 2 days ago, Because I had a buyer, I was selling sunscreen, and I had a buyer ask, what's the expiration date? And they put a bunch of exclamation points and question marks at the end of their sentence. And when I read it, I thought, man, I'm usually pretty good about putting that stuff in there. I'm surprised I missed that. So I looked at the listing, and sure enough, the description had the expiration date, and I took a picture of the expiration date on the item itself. So in 2 different spots, the expiration date was listed, and yet I still got a question on when the expiration date was, with exclamation points even. So, you can't, it's unfair for eBay to put too much power in the hands of buyers, because some just don't know what they're doing. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to give this video a like. Hopefully it's helped you out. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel. We'll be doing some more eBay type videos. Also, if you go to the top of my site here, I do have a list I have started, various lists for blog posts, hauls, eBay news and information, which is what this was under. And if you're a Harbor Freight fan, Harbor Freight coupons, because that is probably one of the more popular things on my site. So thanks for watching, guys.